Hello Steelers, and welcome to this review walkthrough of the new 1941-43 The War in the Desert O Group supplement. This has recently been released by Reisswitz Press, the sister company of Two Fat Lardies, written by Dave Brown, who obviously wrote O Group as well. Now, the Western Desert and the desert fighting is something that I've never really looked into. I've played a few games with Dean, playing rapid fire and a few other things as well. I ain't been shotman, but I've never really thought about it as a theatre in and of itself. This has kind of changed a little bit with the O Group supplement being released, simply because it's basically the campaign itself is pretty much bracketed. It's almost a campaign in a box. All the scenery is the same. You know, it's all usable throughout the campaign. Sand and desert scenery, for example, and also all the basing of all the figures can also be done as well. So it makes a lot easier than just starting, you know, using some old existing ranges and rebasing things. So I've been thinking I'm going to do my next big project will be a 6mm desert campaign using O Group, because I've always wanted to do O Group in 6mm, and I think it'll work really well. Because I've got so much 50mm stuff, there's never been any point. So this has kind of fallen at a perfect time for me, just to start looking for a new project to work alongside some of the other stuff that I'm doing as well, as my Vietnam project has kind of come to an end. Other bits and pieces as well. So this is going to be great, I think. This is a really nice supplement. I bought it on release. It is 54 pages, full colour. It does come as a PDF, I'll just say that. This is a printed copy that I got printed at Docs Direct for about 13 quid, I think it was. It was about $15, $17 or something like that, I'm not sure. But you can get it printed at any third-party organisation, of course. I did mine with a plastic cover on the front and back just to give it a bit of protection, and obviously a spiral bind as well. But you can print it at home, of course. You could just leave it as a PDF, of course, if you've got a PDF reader, which I don't, and I don't really like reading PDFs anyway. So I was kind of looking forward to getting the printed version of it. It has 7 scenarios in it, which make up a pretty rough campaign system if you want to play that through. I will talk about this in a second, because as we go through it I'll tell you more about it. It also has 4 new battalions, so it's got the British battalions for the desert, it's also got the German Afrika Korps, of course, the Italians and the Americans, and there's a little bonus one as well at the end. The Vichy French are in there as well in one of the scenarios, and it covers basically everything from the start of, well, not 1940 fighting, but the 1941 fighting onwards, between the Italians and British, and then the Germans and the British, and then the Americans and the French, and then also the Americans and the British as well with the Germans. So there's quite a lot to get your teeth into. If you've already got some desert stuff and you want to get it on the table and you want to play O Group doing it, then this is a perfect start for it. It's, you know, the scenarios in here look very good, very interesting, and very different as well to the stuff we've seen previously with O Group. Alright, I mean, that's enough of a preamble. Let's open this book up, let's see what's inside it, and let's review away. Okay, so I mentioned this before. I mean, the Western Desert, the desert, should I say, is pretty much a nicely enclosed campaign in and of itself, and obviously this is for O Group, but you could quite easily use this for, you know, any other rule set that you're wanting to use at battalion level. Really, the list would work pretty much for those, as well as would the scenarios in here. Nice cover. Showing some British soldiers hiding by a German Panzer. I think it's a Panzer III. I'm not entirely sure, but anyway, we jump over straight away, and we've got some nice pictures throughout, of course, of games of O Group going on. Various lovely illustrations here, full colour as you can see, and we have our contents. And let's just have a quick look at the contents. We've got the British and Commonwealth battalions, we've got the German Afrika Korps, we've got the Italian battalions, and the United States battalion as well. So these are the organisation lists here. We also have set of rules, and then we've got 7, that's right, 7 desert scenarios. So there's quite a lot to go on there. There's a bit of a campaign system, but it's only really in as much as, you know, you play a game, if you win it, you get points. If you if you do various things, you get other points. It's not like a campaign where you've got to keep track of troops or anything, but we'll talk about that in a second. And then also we just have a frequently asked questions, and also just some extra little bits and pieces tidying up of the rules, because as things happen, as rules have been out there for a while, people do ask questions, and edge cases start to come into rules that probably weren't seen when they were written. So we've got the introduction here. This is a nice, quite relatively brief, how many pages is that? 4 or 5 pages of history of the desert campaign. As I say, it's pretty much a seesaw battle. Starts with the Italians winning, then the British winning, then the Germans winning, then the British winning, then the Americans coming in, and everybody driving the Germans and the Italians finally out to Africa. And that is covered in all of this, really. It doesn't go into too much detail, but it is a really nice introduction just to that campaign, give you an idea of what's happening when and where. Our first map is here. I don't know, I can't say this for 100%, but I think these might have been done by Joe Bilton of Heroic Maps. They look very similar to the other ones that are in the other O group supplements, and also in chain of command supplements and things as well. And I think Joe does quite a lot of work now for Too Far Lardies for their map work as well, and they look really nice. And again, this just gives you a good idea of the theatre itself, the overall theatre of the desert, North African desert, and then we go on to Operation Torch and the landings by the Allies, basically Americans and the Americans and the British, should I say, as they're coming through into pushing into some of the French defenders as well as the Germans. So we've got some additional rules in here as well. This is for O group, so if you know O group, you've got a few bits and pieces. Because of the terrain features or lack of terrain features in the desert, there's a few extra bits and pieces here, such as combat patrols not having to be deployed into cover, for example. Depressions and waddies can hold anti-tank guns or infantry. They can be dug in on ridges, this kind of thing. Another interesting one is the heat haze. Anything that is being targeted over 20 inches requires spotting dice, or is automatically obscured over 30 inches. So it's quite interesting, because of that, the dust that is blown up from the desert, and also just the fact that when it gets really hot in the daytime in the desert, it is difficult to see, creating mirages and all that kind of stuff. So just these, again, slightly different rules, just to really make it more theatre specific right there. So jumping over, so only a few more bits and pieces here of these, just to fill in some of the vehicle details as well. When we move on to the battalion organisations, this is how to pick up a game basically for O group. It's pretty simple. It's not a game where you basically say, right, we're going to have 15 points each, and you make your armies from that. You actually roll dice and add them on, which I really like. It means that you don't know exactly how many points you're going to get. So it means that games are going to be asymmetrical, slightly unbalanced. It's something that I like. I know probably some people probably don't like that, but it just gives you that little bit of flexibility, or a bit, you're not entirely sure how many points your opponent has, or how many you will have as well. So you really got to think about what you're buying from your lists. O group does work well as a pickup game, but it also does work a lot better as a scenario-driven game, which we'll go into later on. But then we also have, just to go over some of the basic rules for O group as well, just some of the additional bits and pieces in here that are already in. It just explains this, so you don't have to buy any of the other supplements if you're not interested in those. If you're not interested in those theatres, if you're just interested in this, it's all in here, so you can just pick it up. First one up is the British Battalion, 41 through to 43. Essentially, most battalions within O group are 3 companies. However, the British one, as a support, you can add a D company, which will take you up to that basically 4 company organisation that the British generally had. They'd usually have at least one in reserve anyway. So this is this guy here, but if you want to, you can add those in. What we also have here is you'll see some of these in red. These you have to actually roll to see if they're available. So you might not get your scout carrier platoon, for example. You might want to choose it. You roll the dice. 1, 2, or 3, you don't get it. 4, 5, 6, you do get it. So that's quite nice, you know, a lot of breakdowns and things like that, you know, that comes across really in the rules with the damage that the desert does to vehicles, especially track vehicles. And then, of course, you've got the full list of all the vehicles that are used by, in this case, the British here. As you can see, some of these, once again, some of these are marked in red, which means they may or may not be available if you want to buy them for your supports. So, big list there for the British. Just picking a few of these out. I mean, we've got all the way down to Rolls-Royce armoured cars, armoured cars, Marmon Harringtons, all the way up to Churchills, Churchill 3, Churchill 5, 3 to 6s, Stuarts, the Grants and the Shermans as well. So, you know, everything covered from that period of 1941 through to 43 as stuff is brought in. So you want it, it's in there. And it's, I mean, this is good anyway, just for having these data sets for other games of full group as well as not just ones in the desert. The Germans built upon the same organisations of the British, pretty much. You know, you basically you have your battalion, your core battalion, then you add your regimental supports, and then later on you add on your divisional supports. One thing I should have mentioned is we have training characteristics as well for each of the different forces. So they do various different things. The Germans are pretty similar here to how they are in O Group itself. In the core rules, same with the British. The one that is different, that is new here, is the Italian battalion. Italian battalion, there's a poet and he doesn't know it. This one's interesting because of the way that the Italians were actually organised. So it says here, Italian infantry platoons were organised into 2 large squads, each consisting of a fire section with light machine guns and a manoeuvre section of riflemen. This essentially equates to 4 sections per platoon. So for ease of play in O Group, Italian platoons follow the 4 square section organisation. So instead of having 3 sections in each of your companies, you will have 4. So they're going to be quite big in the first instance anyway, so that's quite interesting. You're forced to use there, and also just a different doctrine that they're using as well, so that'll be quite interesting. Again, we've got training characteristics over here for the Italians. These are poorly equipped, for example, so they don't have integral anti-tank rifles, so they can't attack armoured vehicles unless they've got a support deployed with them at the time. Then we move over here. Finally, we've got the United States Battalion. So this one again is going to be slightly different to the one that is in O Group because it's an earlier one. So basically, you know, in 1942 they have rigid reserves, which means you have to choose where your supports are going to go within your battalion. But by 1943 they become flexible, which means you can decide where they're going to go when you deploy them on the table. So again, slight differences just there, just to emphasise that difference in moving on. And same again, we've got the characteristics for the Americans, and I think these are pretty similar once again to what they actually are in O Group, but just those slight twists. And of course we have all the supports and all their stats for those. Then we get onto the Western Desert campaign itself. And as I say, there is a scenario, there is a campaign you can play for this, and you basically add up the points, whoever gets the most points at the end of it. Let me just give you an idea here. It says that basically you get 1 victory point per FUBAR that you inflict on the enemy, and also you get a victory point if you win the battle but didn't defeat the enemy purely on FUBARs. So that's kind of making you do the actual, the pushing you to claim the objective of the game itself rather than just smashing the enemy. Which, you know, is a tactic in itself, but it's also, you know, it's about capturing those objectives as well. Let's just jump across. We've got scenario 1, which is better from 1941. This is British versus Italians. We have both the orders of battle both here for the Italians, 10th Bersaglieri, I think that's how I pronounce it, never really said it out loud, and the British 1st Raid Battalion over here as well. And as I say, O Group is really good because it works much better in a scenario setting, because these are then developed, the actual units are developed for losses and things, so it's not just a fresh battalion. It has a slight difference to what you would get on paper. Then of course you've got your map, and this is pretty typical of the maps in here. You know, basically a desert with a couple of hills, not much else on it. So these are, but you know, beautifully produced. So this is what I say about, you know, doing an O Group 6mm project for the Western Desert. It's going to be relatively easy from a terrain point of view, if nothing else. Then we've got the Battle of Bir Gubi in 1941, Operation Crusader. Which is the British attacks against. We have again the Italians in here again. So and then we're moving on to Sidi Rezeg, which is a German attack on the British attack on the Germans defending here. No, completely wrong. Ignore me. The Germans are the attackers and the British are the defenders here. Ignore what I said. I was looking at the wrong map. So this is the 1941. So this is the first time the Germans turn up here, and once again we have, you know, this the Afrika Korps have their lists here built in. Then we've got the Minqua Quaim, 1942. This is testing my pronunciation here. And in this one we've got the New Zealanders attacking the Germans. So we go from a German attack to a New Zealand attack. Jump across here again. Look at this. This is a great example of desert terrain, isn't it? Basically, four risers. I've got to say that you can actually put in a few bits and pieces yourself as some rough areas of terrain. So, for example, you get 4 areas. 2 AFV wrecks should be placed on the table, and then each player can place a tank wreck, and each player can take 2 areas of rocky ground which are classed as cover. So it's not as, you know, bare as it really seems there. But then also remember you've got the obscured and the desert haze rules as well, which are really going to reduce your visibility and ability to do anything. Then we got a box, 1942. This one is a fictitious scenario based on British tactics in the war. Basically, they basically, you know, made a defensive box. So this is what you're going to have with barbed wire and things. They were quite isolated by all accounts. They weren't particularly brilliant, but it is an interesting tactic, or an interesting way of doing another type of desert warfare. You know, that you probably wouldn't see in other theatres, just simply because of the vast open spaces. Then we've got landings in Tunisia. And this is the US versus the French. So this is the Vichy French. So this is interesting as well, because you've now got, although you only have the French only appear in here, they are actually, you know, you have got an extra unit in here. So another list there just for a small French battalion. So that's another force that is part of this whole supplement itself as well. And then once again, just, you know, some rules there. And then we've got the drive on Beja, 1943. This is Germans versus British in this one, and this is a big game. It seems in all of the supplements there is at least one big game which you can basically add in a lot more units. So in this one, the larger game adds in the red units, so you can see there's quite a few red units here for the Germans, for example. And in this one they have their Tiger 1s, which were introduced to Tunisia quite late on. But they didn't really do a great deal. But you can at least have a Tiger 1 on the table if you want to do it as a big game. But then you basically add in those extra units as well. So you can have a normal game, or take it up to that large game as well. So it gives you a nice old a nice big game of O Group if you really want it. There you go, there's the map for this one. Interesting, this one is up the table rather than across it, which you normally get with O Group, so that will be an interesting scenario to try out as well. And then we've also got, as I said, just the briefings and the facts, frequently asked questions as well, just for things that, you know, sometimes come up in games that people don't always have a clear idea about. Just covered there with a couple of pages, and that's it, as it says, index. That's it. That is the O Group War in the Desert supplement. Little walkthrough there, a brief review of it. I'm looking forward to getting into this. Let me know if it's something that interests you in the comments. Is it something that you've played already, the Western Deserts, or I'm sure a lot of wargamers probably have at this point. I'm not new to it, but it's something I've not explored massively, but this has really pushed me to do that. Alright, as always, thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't already, please do subscribe, and I will see you in the next Storm of Steel video.